Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students and welcome to Stylistics. We are discussing in this lecture semantics of sentences. Discussion agenda includes first we'll see the objectives of class, then we'll see what are the problems with word meanings, we'll see the sentence semantics, and within that we will see proposition, entailment and predicate logic. Class objectives are to be able to define and understand the concept of proposition, entailment and predicate logic. We have also intended to be able to do analysis of different dimensions of sentence semantics. And the third objective is to identify and analyze proposition, entailment and predicate logic within a given text. So we should have idea of these aspects of meaning. That's why this class is designed. The definition of meaning on the basis of word is problematic, and the question arises as to whether the basic unit of meaning is not just a word at the sentences. We will cover the main approaches toward the sentence meaning. First, it will be shown how the meaning of a sentence can be defined in terms of simple or complex propositions, and how proposition can be related by means of so-called entailment relationships, and finally how the machinery of predicate logic can be used to describe the internal structure of the proposition. First of all, however, let's define the central problem that arises with word meaning. Over and above the non-semantic problems of word definition, there are many difficulties in defining word meaning. For example, the problem of handling function words. How can we specify the meaning of such items like and however? Or we face cross-linguistic problems where across language the same concept may involve different degree of transparency, such as thimble in English and finger hat in German. Its literal meaning is there. So numerous on the basis of the words the meaning cannot be defined. We see metaphors such as time is money, for example. The word involved in this do not reflect the overall meaning. Same applies to the idiomatic expressions such as it is raining cats and dogs. And often paralinguistic features such as gestures, facial expressions, etc. accompany the uttering of the linguistic construction and influence of their meaning, and for this reason the semantic is not confined toward the word meaning but should incorporate the meaning of sentences as well. Central approach toward sentence meaning assigns truth value to sentences. This approach is referred to as proposition logic, and it treats sentences as propositions. In logic, the meaning of sentences is defined in terms of statements or propositions and not just in the terms of sentences itself. One argument in the favor of this treatment is that the different sentences may be converted into an identical proposition. Let's illustrate that. John and Mary, obviously John is pointing gun at Mary. One sentence could be derived from the situation that John is killing a Mary. Other one could be that Mary is being killed by John. A further sentence could be John is doing something to Mary, and so on and so forth. However, in looking at these sentences in terms of their meaning, they essentially mean the same thing, and this meaning is defined in terms of so-called propositions. Let's see how we can formalize sentence meaning in terms of proposition and how the machinery of proposition and logic works. A proposition can be defined as a basic semantic content of the sentence, or in more philosophical terms, what a sentence says about the word. Propositions are labeled with small letters from P, which stands for the initial letter of proposition. If you have one proposition, it is also labeled as P. If you have two propositions, like in this sentence, the sky is blue and it is raining, then we would have P and Q. P would be sky is blue and it is raining is Q. Well, and if you have three proposition, the sky is blue, it is raining and it is cold, you would U, P, Q and R, and so on and so forth. Propositions have a truth value. So we could ask a question, under what condition is this proposition true, where the capital T stands for true, or false, where the capital F stands for false. Well, this truth value by and large depends on our word knowledge, but also on a number of additional parameters. They include, for example, the general content. This proposition P is true if content is in line with our basic understanding of the word. Another influential factor can be the speaker. This proposition P may be true, but if a blind speaker says this, can we say anything about truth value? Well, depending whether the blind speaker is right or not. And then there may be the local or temporal context in which the sentence is uttered. The proposition is only true, or proposition here, the sky is blue, is only true if the sentence is uttered during daytime. So here is just false. Simple proposition can be turned into complex proposition by means of so-called logical constants or connectives. Depending on the type of connective, which is typically realized by adverb or conjunction in natural language, different expectations about the truth value of the individual proposition and the complex proposition can be inferred. Propositional logic has shown interest in 5 such connectives. So you see them here in the table. If you have something like P and Q, you would link one of these two symbol as the connector, and the compound proposition is referred to as conjunction. A compound proposition is referred to as disjunction if it is linked by any of these symbols. The natural language equivalent would be OR. If P then Q is referred to as the implication, and here are the symbols. You see, you always have choices between several symbols, so logicians are little bit lags on this. Negation simply mean not P or not Q, and you would use one of these symbols. And last but not least, if only P then Q, you would call this equivalence, and here are two symbols that can be used. Let us look at conjunction to take one of our examples here. The conjunction closely resembles and in natural language. Here is an example. The bank was robbed and the police are on the way. And is used in logic to construct compound propositions which are true. If all simple propositions is all the conjunction are true. If any simple conjunct is false, the whole proposition would be false. This can be manifested by means of so-called truth tables. So the bank was robbed, we assume this is true. The police are in their way, this is true. So P and Q is also true. If the bank was robbed is false, it was robbed at all, but the police are on their way, then compound proposition is false too. The other way around, if the bank was robbed but the police are not on their way, then it will be false. We have another false compound proposition. If both conjunction false, the whole compound proposition is also false. Such truth tables can be constructed for all logical connectives. The important point is that we have a mechanism of defining sentence meaning in terms of truth value of its proposition. And from the proposition which are true, we can draw inferences, and these inferences are referred to as entailment. Now, formally, entailment is defined as any true inference from true proposition. It is symbolized by this symbol over here, and we can say if P is true and Q is true, then P and Q entails Q, or the other way around, P entails Q if only P is true and Q is also true. Here are two examples. John regrets studying maths. Now P is John studying math and Q is John. For example, John studies maths, and clearly P entails Q. Brutus killed Caesar. P is Brutus killed Caesar, and Q will, let's assume Caesar died, and certainly P entails Q. So the fact that Brutus killed Caesar entails that Caesar is dead. How can we test this? Well, there is an interesting entailment. Let us illustrate this test, which works on 4 individual steps. Here is our first example. Brutus killed Caesar. Now clearly P is Brutus killed Caesar. Now the first step is to assume any proposition Q that entailed or that could be entailed by P. So let's assume here Caesar died. So that is inferences of the entailment. Step 2, make Q negative. Caesar did not die. Step 3, conjoin P and not Q using AND or any such connective. So here we see Brutus killed Caesar and Caesar didn't die. Now think about the logic behind this. If the result is nonsense, then P entails Q. If the result makes sense, P does entail Q. And so that's the rule for entailment testing. So does this make sense? The Brutus killed Caesar and Caesar didn't die? Well, not at all. In other words, P entails Q. Not logical. P entails Q. So take same sentence and say Q is Caesar was a slave. That is the step 1. We assume any proposition Q to be entailed by P. To make negative, here we go Caesar was not a slave. Conjoin P and not Q. Here we go P not Q. Brutus killed Caesar and Caesar was not a slave. Step 4, does it make sense or not? Well, this could make sense because could have been anyone, or we don't know whether he was slave or not. In other words, this is not logical. So P does not entail Q. With an entailment, we can define further semantic relation between proposition. For example, we can define the relationship of paraphrase. Paraphrase can be defined as mutual entailment relation between two propositions. So if P entails Q, then Q also entails P. And the most typical natural example of the paraphrase relation is the active-passive relationships as over here. So as P, John killed Mary, and Q, Mary killed by John, and other way around. These examples nicely illustrate and can be used to define any propositional relationship. The relationship of contradiction holds if one proposition asserts the opposites of another and a third of entailment, P entails not Q. And in other words, we have some sort of sentences antinomy. Cases of contradiction in natural language typically involve negation, as John killed Mary versus John didn't kill Mary, as indicated here by Q1. Or examples of the opposition of the semantic feature John killed Mary contradicts Mary's alive. Well, and then we have inclusion. Inclusion can be defined as unidirectional entailment between two propositions. If T entails Q, then Q doesn't entail P. Natural language example of inclusion typically involve lexemes that are in highly hyponymic relation. We see John killed Mary entails that John did something to Mary, but John did something to Mary entails John killed Mary. It is necessary to consider such a structure that corresponds to the state of affair in the external world. The meta language for the description of this internal structure is referred to as predicate logic. So let's look at predicate logic. The simple proposition P, John loves Mary, describes a state of affair in the world where two individuals, John and Mary, are in a relationship with each other in which the former loves the latter. If we label this relationship like this, X loves Y, and replace X with John, Y with Mary, we arrive at a representation of the internal structure of this proposition, which looks like this. The essential idea behind such a presentation is that each proposition can be defined as a so-called predication. Predications in turn consist of a predicate which is always capitalized, that is initial letter is by convention capital letter, and the set of argument, theoretically unlimited, which always represent in small letters. Such a predication can be read as follow. Let's say predicate is P and the argument is X. Then we say the X is AP. Let's look at some example. Here's the first. Great Britain is a country is the proposition. Now obviously we have a predicate country with one argument, Great Britain. This is a so-called one place predicate. The two place predicate have two arguments. John loves Mary, the predicate is love, and the two arguments are John and Mary. Well, and here is a free place predicate. Jane sends Paul her love. Send predicate Jane, Paul and love are the arguments. Thus, each predicate semantically defines its arguments. For example, verbal predicates define the thematic role of their argument. This is a well-known procedure which crosses the borderline between syntax and semantics and so-called thematic relation, agent, goal, and theme. Additionally, predications can involve quantifiers, while simple predications represent relationship between entities. In addition of quantifiers allows the formalization of relationship between sets of entities. For example, here we have two sets, the set of bald people and the set of linguists. Let's assume that we want to express that all linguists are bald. Now, all what denotes a subset relationship between two sets. One set is totally included within the other. For example, in the set of bald include the set of linguists. So we have something like this. In other words, there is no linguist who is not also bald? Well, here is the predicate logic representation. We have two predicates, linguist with one argument and bald with one argument, and arguments are identical because we are talking about the same person, while on the ups and downs it stands for the universal quantifier. Simply means that this is how to understand formula. For all element x it holds. If x is a linguist, then x is also bald. Here is another possibility. Let's assume the following relationship. Now here we do not have subsets, but we have the relationship where there is at least one element that both sets have in common. That is, the two sets intersect. The predicate logic representation is this one. Now upside down is a denotes, upside down is denote intersectional relationship. It is existential quantifiers. If we interpret like this, if x is a linguist, then x is bald. And here is the third relationship, the not relationship. Now how we express this one? While here the two sets do neither intersect nor are they included within one another, we simply express the relationship that we have disjunction relationship between those sets. There is no intersection. In this example, the set of linguists has no common element with the set of bald people. In other words, there are no linguists who are also bald. Well, the use of the symbol is quite simple. There is no element x if such that if x is a linguist, then x is also bald. Let's look at further example of predicate logic to deepen our understanding. Here is the first one. All men love Mary. Well, we already know this formula. We need universal quantifier which says for all x it holds. If x is a man, then they love Mary. Number 2, a man sneezed. We need existential quantifier. There is at least one element x such that x is a man and x sneezed. Well, and here is the final one. Nobody likes Mary, and here for a change I will use two different representation which essentially mean the same thing. For no x it holds. If x is a person, then x likes Mary. Or we could say and use the existential quantifier. It is not the case that there is at least one x which holds x is a person and x loves Mary. So you see, with predicate logic, proposition can be analyzed internally, allowing a detailed semantic formalization.